Welcome to Hustle Lounge. Sincere thanks to our audience and their feedback on our first episode that went live last Tuesday. Your response has been so encouraging, and we are so glad that you loved it.
At Hustle Lounge, we bring real, relatable narratives of entrepreneurs from world over. If you're a startup enthusiast, you're surely at the right place. Expect life lessons, hacks, and some real learnings, and of course, a fun chat.
We have our content on various platforms like YouTube, LinkedIn, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, JioSaavn, and so on in both video and audio formats to make it convenient for you to consume via a medium of your choice. So give it a big thumbs up and share these videos with you so that your friends and family can get the benefit that we are aiming from these episodes. On this episode of the Hustle Lounge, we are interacting with Renu Bisht. She is a technology entrepreneur and a digital leader with over 12 years of experience with Fortune 500 companies like KPMG, Wipro, and Aditya Birla. She founded Vanity Q back in 2014, and it's India's largest mobile salon. It scaled up to 1 lakh loyal customers, and they raised 24 crores from VC funds. And in 2017, they got strategically acquired by VLCC. So, it's a great opportunity for everyone listening and watching us today on the Hustle Lounge. And to begin with, Garima, what is the hustle that we are talking about today?
Thanks, Anurag, and welcome, Renu. The hustle that sort of, got our focus when we were talking all this while with you is something that I think takes me back to one of the first classes of B school saying the business of a business is to make money. And your focus on keeping the finances in place right from day one and hustling around it was really, really endearing. And we wanted to speak a bit more about that. So, to begin with, we want to understand how did you raise your seed fund and how long did it last?
Great. Thank you, first of all, for inviting me for this session. And it's great interacting with you guys. So back in, I think, August 2014, when we started, I think we had our own literally I could call it as life saving, me and Pragya, my co-founder. So we invested close to around 15, 16 lakh rupees in the business at the start, right? We started with Gurgaon as a city, and started with a couple of girls on our payroll to experiment with the concept, right? And we suddenly saw that in the month two itself we were operationally break even, so that was a good thing for us, and the idea was just to sort of expand the business. Now by end of December 2014, the same year, early Jan 2015, is when we thought that we are growing at a certain pace, and now we need to move out of Gurgaon, where we were primarily operational. We wanted to move out of Gurgaon to at least capture the entire Delhi NCR region. And we thought probably the same amount of money which we invested during the Gurgaon launch, which was around 15, 16 lakh, probably that would be sufficient for us, to launch Delhi as well. So we happened to chat with a couple of our friends. We knew, some of our friends do investment in the startup space. We spoke with them about the idea, and they sort of liked it. At that time, the home salon industry was really not really big, right? Today, there are multiple players in the market who are delivering such services, including salons in itself. So we happened to chat with him, and he liked the idea. He wanted to invest, and suddenly, and the ask was very simple, right? 15 lakh for launch in Delhi. But what happened was, suddenly he liked the idea. He told to three of his friends. His three friends told to another three friends, and suddenly from that 15 lakh of ask, we could raise almost around 2.7 CR kind of money at that point in time. Also, at the same time, when we started up in August 2014, a couple of VC funds were chasing us. They wanted to understand what we are doing, and they were tracking us in terms of our growth and very much interested in investing in us. So when we were closing this round, we reached out to some of them again to ask if they want to be part of that first investment round, and they were happy to shell around 60-70 lakh at that point in time. So we had a combination of our first round, which was family, friends, and a certain VC who invested in us at that point in time. Now look at this. When we started in August 2014, that money lasted. That the investment which came from our direct pocket lasted till May 2015, right? And it could have lasted more because we were operationally break even. We as founders were not taking salaries, but otherwise all the other expenditures like your rentals, your salaries, all the product procurement costs, all that operational cost was taken care of, right? And then we raised 2.7 CR at around March, April when we closed our round. And that money from 2015 April only lasted till December 2016, right? Where we actually again potentially started looking out for funds again because, you know, if you look at whenever there is an angel round or an VC comes into picture, there's a lot of pressure to also grow at the same time. So that was the cycle. We started with a small round, but got into a big round, and post that, obviously, in the second round, we also spoke to in December 2016. We also spoke to brands when the money was almost about to exhaust. Brands like BCPL, which is directly don't pay in cash, but gives you a lot of leeway and funds to market the business, right? That was the second round when we raised. And the third round was directly raised at the VLCC, where we had a strategic acquisition happen by them in 2017, mid 2017.
So, Renu, was there ever a runway scare that you faced while doing the business? Like you said, the initial rounds with the company were with friends and family and a few VCs, and then you raised a second round. So operational wise, you were comfortable, but I'm sure, in the growth phase when you plan to scale, sometimes you feel that, what if I land into a situation and I have that, block in front of me? So was there ever such situation in the business?
I think I would say every entrepreneur goes through this phase where there's a runway scare, right? I think the life is all about that. So yes, I think very early on, right? And that's when you start raising your first round, when you feel that there is a runway scare. But now I think a lot of B2B startups have started to become more matured, where they are making money, but to expand or to launch a certain set of business, they want more money, right? But when we started up, I think. Obviously, with our own money, when we scale to a certain level, we thought that if we don't have money, probably we may be able to take, we will be able to grow, but the growth will be very small, right? And we needed to go big, and that's why every startup go for funding, be it your angel investor or be it your VCs. So yes, so I think the first scare came when we got our first angel money round. And so where do we spend that money, right? And as when you see that money for the first time, that big 2.75 crore, you want to obviously hire big team, you want to hire your corporate team, you want to invest a little bit on your office, etc. You start, as a founder, start taking salary if you think that fits into the budget of the entire business planning, etc. So when we started doing that, obviously we realized that the money was getting exhausted much faster than we expected it to, right? Especially when you're in a growth phase, you spend a lot of money on marketing. And hence, it becomes very, very important for startups to actually have one person in the team, you call it accountant, finance guy, whosoever that person is, to tightly control that money and look at your runway. Now, there are two kinds of startup. Our startup was money eating startup, right? Because, with every, and Vanity Cube is basically a home salon service. So only every beautician can only do so much, right? She would have a typical bandwidth of doing 3-4 orders a day, and every order only can do so much. So we had an upper limit, for every beautician who was serving those orders. But the spend which you need to do on marketing or hiring new people, trying to fill the gap between your old versus new beauticians is very, very high at the start when you're growing up. So that time, obviously, when we raised the first round, our money got exhausted much faster than we expected. And what we did was actually move back to our old office because our office cost was very, very high, right? So yes, there was a runway scare 3 times. Number one, when we raised our first round of money, it got exhausted at a certain time. We had to go to another funding or a VC firm for next round of money. And that money was about to get over, when there was this third round of VLCC, which has happened. One thing which needs to be considered while looking at a runway is obviously, in today's scenario, if your business run rate, monthly expenditure, or I would say the burn is very, very high, then your runway has to be at least 12 months, if not more, right? And if your business operational costs are not very, very high on a monthly basis, or you're at least operationally break even, then probably you can anywhere take a runway of 7 to 8 months, but nothing below that. Because if you have only runway for 8 months and you don't have money after that, it's the time, you should start going back to your VCs, or figuring it out how that next set of money will come in the business.
Renu, just to follow up on this, to our listeners and viewers today, what sort of strategies they can implement to make sure that they understand this runway? Like a lot of people don't understand that how much my runway is in reality. So it's easy to look at your books and see what money you have and where you have to spend. But I think if you can share maybe a couple of tips with them through which they can at least start off by understanding their runway and realizing the truth behind what is the real money that they have in bank and what is the superficial thing that they're looking at.
Correct.
So maybe that can help them out a bit.
Correct. So I think one of the things which we did early on, which our investors told us to do, I didn't know, at least at that point in time. Today, entrepreneurs are more smart, is that whatever money we got at that point in time, right, we reinvested that in, different funds, so that until we are using that money is giving us some kind of additional return and not really just sitting in our current account, right? So that was the number one point, where your whatever lump sum money is at, and actually matured VCs exactly know this. It's only at the angel round probably the founders wouldn't know that you can reinvest or you can use this money at some other place. Having said that, I think the most important thing what we need to do as a founder is, it's mandatory, and not to show it to VC, but to to ourselves, that what is our next 6 months plan and what is our next 12 months plan. Generally, I've seen when we do planning, we over project our growth and under project our expenditures, right? We think, oh, by spending 100 rupees, we'll get 1,000 rupees revenue, right? You should always do the other way around. You should under project your growth and always over project your expenditure, so that let's say in the worst come situation, how much the 6 months plan is going to look like, right? Especially if you're in a business of daily revenue generating. So some businesses like B2B today have a 30-day or a 40-day or 50-day credit cycles, right? You get money post 50 or 60 days from customers. So you need to manage those credit cycle. But a business like ours, where you had money coming in every day, it is very important to do that cash management, on a daily basis, how much expenditure you're doing on a daily basis, keeping the right kind of records, and ensuring that you're not over spending on a particular month, whatsoever is the reason. So I think the hard control of money will only come when there's someone you keeping a track of the expenditure for a business like us on a day-to-day basis, what is going out and what is coming in. If your coming in is much, much lesser than what is going out, then obviously your books will look pretty red, and you would sooner need that fund to come in, right? So I think we also started doing this pretty late, right? We would have done this much earlier when we raised our first round. We would have done those bookkeepings pretty neat, but as a founder, you're so busy in your operational hustles and raising other round, that sometimes you completely miss out on that angle, that how much runway do you have, and every month when you're projecting something, if you're not meeting it, then how much you've also spent on meeting those targets. I think when you do that very clearly, you would not have such issues of runway. But having said that, I think in an era where we are in, it is very important to build a business where at least the business is able to produce operational break even, if not at a brand level profitability. Because if you're not making unit economics positive in every transaction, then the business will never flourish. That's number one. And number two, it is never going to get any tractions from VCs, because VCs will look for a business where today, and this is a question which VCs used to ask us. So example, if today we give you whatever money you want to run your business, let's say $1 billion, how fast can you scale your business? If you can answer that question, right? So you exactly know, first of all, what the business model is, because a lot of businesses doesn't have that proposition that today if we pump in, let's say $1 billion, you can build a business of, let's say, a 2 billion or a 3 billion, right? That kind of vision should be there as part of the planning when you're doing it. And just a very, very strong control on your accounting, which again, like I said, we don't do. Hire, invest. There are just going off the track. Invest in two big things in a startup. Number one, a good lawyer when you're signing any kind of your agreements or whatever, right? Because that will save you from a lot of cost at a future date if things go wrong. And number two, invest in a good CA, right? Who would guide you how to invest, what to do, what not to do, and keep a tight control on your spend. So these are the two big investments which we did not do very early on, which we should have done.
Right, right. No, very well said, Renu. But whoever I speak to now I think that's a great dilemma that founders go through as to when to raise money. And so did you have a valuation target, or did you have? How did you? What is that process in terms of, if you could break it down to the smallest level for people to understand as to when is the right time to raise money, and what is that one should look for, target to go about raising funds.
So in a business, when you're valuing business, like I was saying, that you have a pre-money valuation and a post-money valuation, depending on how much fund you want to raise. First of all, so your plan needs to say this. Let's say if I'm going to raise 10 CR, this 10 CR will last for next 2 years or 3 years. Basis that, you basically value your company backwards, right? So what is pre-money value, right? That today, if a business is doing 10 lakh, and let's say in 12 months it's going to do 5 CR of the annual revenue, and basis your monthly run rate post your 12 months, you can calculate your valuation. So for example, you are saying my valuation will start anywhere above 5 CR and up, because in next 1 year I'll be doing 5 CR and up kind of a revenue, with my monthly run rate going up by, let's say, from 10 lakh to, let's say, 80 lakh or a 1 CR kind of a number. Now your investors will go back and look at your growth plan, and your minimum pre-money valuation will start at 5 CR, right? And above. And then you can negotiate. You can call that 5 CR, you can call it 8 CR. So basically how it works is, people ask you 2x of the revenue, the annual run rate, whatever is your annual run rate, 2x or 3x or 10x of that revenue can become your valuation, right? Now that's pre-money. And post-money is whatever investor is putting in the business. You add that money to your valuation, and they then say that I have now raised this round and my investor has put in 10 CR. My pre-money valuation was 5 CR. 10 CR has come in the business. Now my total valuation has gone up by 15 CR. So that's how you can divide your sort of valuation. But it's generally in multiples. People say 2x, 3x, 5x. So it depends on how fast you're growing. You can always, fluctuate the number, and there is no right or wrong number. Everyone sort of do bidding on those numbers. And if investors really see a potential in this, they can agree to as high as 10x. Or if they don't see a potential but still want to take a risk, they would call the valuation as low as 2x. But generally, on an average, I have seen 4 to 5x minimum of the valuation which businesses today ask when they raise any kind of funds.
Right. I completely agree with that, and it's really difficult to, sit in the front of the investors and try to, showcase that magic metric to them, which can actually tell them about the viability of your early stage startup. What was that particular magic metric for you with Vanity case?
When we started, I think there were very few B2B startups which used to get funding. It's only B2C startup which were pretty hot in the market, right? When we started, the only trend which we see circle was going after is a network effect. So what does network effect means, right? So today, the same question, right? Today, as a business, if I want to give you $1 billion, can you scale it up basis the money? If money is not the limit, how faster can you scale this business, right? So take an example of an Uber or Ola or food businesses, right? Where what you have to do is you basically just need to keep adding more people, and your business will start growing basis, the number of people you're adding in your network, right? So that's called networking effect, where you set up a playbook. Let's say in our case, we'll set up a playbook for a city, Gurgaon. We say this is the playbook to launch in Gurgaon, and if I get more money, I'll copy paste this playbook in Delhi, in Bombay, in Bangalore, in international countries, because the playbook will remain the same, right? The format in which the execution will happen, the software, everything will remain the same. It's just the cities will change, right? So that was something which we were driving on. I think there were a couple of things which excited the VCs. Basically, number one was the kind of business we were in, because somebody like an Uber, Ola were raising a lot of money. Grofers has raised a lot of money, and they all were in the network effect business, right? So our business was network effect, because with every new beautician you add, you get more revenue. The opportunity was that people do take salon services, irrespective of COVID, non-COVID. People will still get their eyebrow done. They want to still look beautiful, irrespective, like how hospital during any point in time will work. Beauty service is any such industry where you would need haircut for men, and for women, a lot of other services, right? So this industry is here to grow. That was number one. Number two, you have a lot of beauticians available in the market. Every year there are so many beauticians which are available, who want to earn more money, right? They want to do freelancing work and are very much available. So that was a second opportunity they were looking at. And what is our cost of acquiring these beauticians? The cost is only this, that you need to give them a kit. They are already trained. You need to give them a kit and a software, the software for just managing their orders, etc. And you're good to go, right? Now let's say if you're launching in a new city, you just need to add more beautician. You have the software ready, you have your playbook ready, you exactly know how to serve a customer at home environment, and you just need to train them and get them ready. You have a good talent pool which is available, right? So that was the major thing which I think VCs were attracted at, the network effect, right? With every new beautician, I will get a revenue. So my chance is only to add more beautician in the network and keep exploring that, right? So that was something which excited them, and it was new in the market. Not many people were doing it, with the kind of time we were living in, where we were so busy, people don't want to step out. Look at Bombay weather, where half of the time it's raining. Look at Delhi weather, it's so hot or it's so cold at any given point in time. Comfort was something the millennials were looking at, and that was a clear proposition for investors to invest in the business.
Yeah, fantastic. I have a follow-up question on that before I move on to the next. Did you face, like, this sounds great, you had the magic sort of metrics with you, you had a great story, you knew you had finances in control, but were there rejections, or was it easy to raise whatever you did so far?
So when there's less competition, then it's very difficult to raise funds, because people don't know about the business idea. When there is one business, let's say, which has raised some good amount of money, and suddenly there are 2-3 such businesses which exist in the market, then investors have a fear of missing out. The FOMO happens, right? And then they start investing in couple of such similar startups. So when we started up, I think the biggest challenge were there were not enough startup in the beauty space per se, who were delivering home salon services. So though it was an exciting proposition for investors, but they didn't had like a foolproof success story, neither in the West nor in India, for to invest heavily in that particular sector, right? They were still thinking whether to do or not, but the only thing which they were aware of is beauty as a sector will grow because people are becoming more conscious of looking great, right? So that was the main proposition. So yes, there were a lot of rejections at the start. We would have at least met, if not more, 50-60 investors at any given point in time, pitching them the idea, discussing, the pros and cons of businesses, etc. We did had rejections also because we were two women, female, co-founders, etc. So there were a lot of things which were challenging apart from the business model. But I would say one thing, right? And I actually missed out this point in your last question about the magic matrix, is that if your unit economics looks good, right, where today, if your acquisition cost of a customer is, let's say, 1 rupee, and you're making 10 rupee, right? And your operational cost is, let's say, 5 rupees. So your marketing cost is 1 rupee, your operational cost is 5 rupees, you're getting 10 rupee from a customer, you're still making 4 rupees of revenue, at least on that transaction, right? If you can show that matrix to a VC, right, the unit economic matrix, along with the story that it can grow faster than what you are today. That sells like a hotcake. But in terms of rejections, yes, met a lot of VCs, attended a lot of programs where where you have those seed funding programs available, accelerator program which you call them. So we attended a lot of those also at a later stage to get a lot of traction. Somewhere we got success, somewhere we didn't, and lastly, at the end of the day, we got VLCC on board, who actually gave that kind of trust to the brand and invested, and it made complete sense for them. It was a strategic partnership because they are already in such a business, and their help would only increase or grow the business.
Right. Fantastic. And thanks, Renu. You've been so open about how you ran the business and how you started. And if you were to really summarize as a couple of mistakes that you did, which if you were to, and not only pertaining to your business, but just as an entrepreneur, if you can highlight maybe one or two or three key mistakes, and how would you, turn that into advice for entrepreneurs today that they shouldn't do or they should do, in whatever tonality you want to take that. So some mistakes that you wouldn't want anyone to repeat, or, you would want that to be learning for others.
Correct. Just two things, right? So number one, I think as an entrepreneur, we want to do everything. So we micromanage every damn thing in the organization. We want to pick up the customer call. We want to serve the order. We want to drop the beautician to the customer location. We want to do multiple things, right? But you have to understand what are the top three priorities for you as an entrepreneur, which will help the business grow, right? If you're going to get involved in the daily mundane tasks, then you're not going to have that kind of bandwidth to think more from strategic point of view for the business. So I think we did a lot of such stuff at the early time where we used to just to save a couple of bucks, right? But trust me, if you want to just save those couple of bucks in the start, that's not going to help. Instead, have the right kind of team, hire it. And I always give this example that as a startup, a lot of time you hire a much cheaper resource in your system, thinking maybe the expensive one you will not be able to retain for longer time. But the most important thing you need to look at is what is the value at these two resources will bring to the table, right? Somebody with more experience, more confidence, maybe a little higher pay and at a higher pay package, versus somebody who has less experience, probably will not be able to immediately help you in next 6 months, but at a lower package. I chose the one with a lower package. I thought, okay, the rest I will manage, right? But as an entrepreneur, like I said, you don't have time to manage a lot of things. You need such strong people in your team who can help you grow and take it to next stage. You need to take that risk of that 6 months, let's say paid salary to these people, and take that. If it doesn't work, that's fine, right? But take that risk. So I think the number one was obviously doing too much of micromanagement, and doing all by ourselves, thinking that I'm a superwoman. And number two, also not able to hire the right team at the right time, which is very, very important. As a startup, you should have those 3-4 good people in the team. And the third most important thing, you asked two, but I want to mention the third thing, is manage your money in the right fashion, invest in the right place, take risk, pivot immediately if you think things are not working. Don't wait, okay, let me wait for 2 months, let me see this, let me do that. Don't do that. Pivot if you think things are not working like you planned, things are not working. Change the model, change the model, change the model. Take that risk, keep pivoting. I think when you do those pivoting and different tests and trials and tests, you definitely arrive at a model which will work for your business, right? But if you keep doing similar thing every morning, you come back to business, exactly do same thing which you have been doing for last 6 months, things won't change for you. Every day has to be changed for startup, which early on I think we missed out because we were so busy in that operational stuff. We never actually put in a lot of brain in how do we reach from point A to point B from growth perspective. So these are something which everyone should keep in mind.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Great learnings there.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. And there's a famous saying, that you don't hire people to help in what you do. You hire people to help in the things that you cannot do. So it's really important that you hire the right kind of people for the right kind of job. And yes, I mean, these are the things that you go through as an entrepreneur, as a business, as a startup in your early stages, and you realize, and I'm sure people listening today and watching us on YouTube and LinkedIn would have gained a lot many good key insights into how you run a business and what are the things that you fail at, and then things that you experience and how you get up and keep going, and at the end of the day make it into something, like Garima says that you go from 0 to 1. So how you go from 0 to 1 is something that you really need to understand. And thank you so much, Renu, for being with us on Hustle Lounge today. I'm sure we'll meet again soon in another episode, but it was lovely having you. Any closing thoughts, Garima, on this?
Yeah, I think it was a fantastic chat, and very seldom do you come across entrepreneurs like yourself, Renu, who are so open about talking about their journey in true openness and not having guards in terms of what is the right thing to say and what is not. So I think this chat would be truly helpful. And for a lot of people, I think we still live in that era. And you also mentioned that you faced rejections because you were two women founders. And I think more power to women managing money. And really, I think that you've done really well. So I'm sure it was very, very encouraging for everyone to hear your thoughts today. So thank you so much, Renu.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It was great chatting with you guys.
Investors and angels sure want to know how long your runway is. While you are busy in day-to-day operations and are doing everything right to scale your business, never lose sight of your organization's financial goals. Hustle, learn, employ the right person to do this, but never lose sight of your runway.
Absolutely, Garima. I also want to add that a lot of entrepreneurs feel women aren't good with money. Renu, a true blue hustler, just busted that myth. Thank you all for tuning in today. Please do reach out to us at hustlelounge@sociallydesi.com for any suggestions, feedback, and collaborations that you may have in mind. See you next Tuesday. Keep hustling.